So in this video today, I want to talk about stop taking calls with people who will never buy. And this all comes down to actually qualifying your prospects and ensure it's worth your time and also their time to have a conversation with them. Because the reason for this, a lot of people think they're making progress or they're kind of stepping forward or they're going to make more sales if they just speak to anyone who kind of expresses interest in their product or service or whatever it is that you sell. But chances are that person could just be a tire kicker or just a very bad fit in the first place. And like I said, they're probably not going to buy for you. So first of all, what an unqualified call costs from you is it's never just the time you take on the call. You then put the time into the prep before, you block out your diary for a call with someone where it could have been with another prospect who is actually a fit. You then follow up with them. You then have the mental space afterwards kind of blocked up thinking, oh, is that person going to come back, or how come they didn't close? It will then start to also impact your close rate. So you'll be closing less deals, which will also make you sort of knock your confidence, think you're bad at sales. And because of that, you'll then become anxious and awkward on your sales calls, which in time will make you close even less sales. You start discounting to try to get people over the line, which would never fit. And in my experience, this is always a complete disaster. The people who you get over the line with discounting always tend to be the absolute worst clients. You'd wish you'd never work with them, and they're going to take up so much of your mental capacity and time, just draining you of that, having to deal with them, have to answer relentless questions, having to appease them because they're unhappy because they didn't get what they wanted straight away. So always a very bad idea to do that. And finally, your confidence will go, and on the calls then where it does matter, you're going to be feeling awkward, uncomfortable, and like I said, probably closing less of those deals as a result of that. And the reason this tends to happen, people tend to do this, is because a book call will feel like progress. You think, oh, well, if I have a diary full of calls, I've more chance of closing deals than if I had less calls in there. But that's actually not really the case. You're kind of not just being generous with your time. You're basically just putting off the having the awkward conversation or ringing that person like, hey, like, seeing that you said this, don't think you're really a fit for what we do. I just want to save us both time. So you're being a little bit cowardly in that sense. And that is a big problem. Like I said, it's going to just take away so much from you over, especially in the long term. So the things that you should be checking before you get onto the call with your prospects is the problem. So first of all, do they actually have the problem that you solve? So the exact same thing, not like, oh, well, we could maybe adjust what we do and do this. Like doing that again, another kind of worms. If you're going to adjust on a client by client basis, it's going to make it very difficult for you to have a repeatable process and help the people you can actually help consistently. Priority, do they have an actual direct need or urgency to fix this problem, or is this just something that has kind of cropped up and they just thought, oh, well, I'll just kind of explore it? Power, so are they the decision maker, or does someone else need to be on the call for this? I made a video about this yesterday. You can go check out, talking about how to make sure I'm the decision maker, especially if it's to do with speaking with a partner or something like that. And then finally, can they afford it? So we've had conversations with people. We ring them up once they kind of join our community. We say, look, like, are you willing to invest to fix this? And if they say no, we don't really tend to speak to them, because chances are, if they don't have the money, they first of all, well, they might have the money, but they don't have the money kind of allocated to fixing this problem. So they're obviously don't have a direct need, or they're not kind of urgent about fixing it. And if you kind of miss one of these, all you're really doing is having a conversation. Especially when I was working in software sales, for example, I'd get loads and loads of people booking in, just want to have a chat, just want to have a look at it. And after like a couple of weeks of this happening, I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm taking up so much time with people that just want to have a bit of a window shop and see what it's about, when I could just send them a pre-recorded demo they could have a look at and then come back when they're serious. And that led to me kind of ringing people up and being like, look, it says here that your timeline isn't for the next kind of 6 months, probably not really worth having a chat at this point, but I can send you over some information for you to look at. And they'd be like, okay, yeah, great, I just want to have a quick look at the system anyway. Whereas if I hadn't done that, I'd been sat on calls with them for hours and hours, like with follow-ups and that kind of stuff, until that 6-month window came around, and then they'd probably go quiet anyway. So how to do this without being rude to ensure they're qualified is put in your booking form or your calendar, like Calendly or something like that, sort of what is it you're looking for from the call, what have you already tried, and what sort of budget have you got in mind for this. And the people who can't be bothered to fill out the questions, or they put NA, just ring up and like, look, if you can't be bothered to fill out the questions, probably not really worth us having a chat. And if you prefer as well with these to not have it in your calendar, but you just want to ring people up and ask before you jump on like a Google Meet or a Zoom, something like that, absolutely fine as well. But I just kind of make sure you've qualified these people, because there's nothing worse than getting onto a forum and realizing, oh, like this person's just here for a bit of like a chat. They're not really serious about buying whatsoever. And in the first couple of minutes as well, just like, look, before we kind of dive into everything, can I just ask a couple of quick things so I don't waste your time? And then you can just ask the questions. No one's ever been offended by someone trying to save their time and give it back to them as well. And I've had it a number of times too. You're like, look, I don't really think you're a fit for what it is that we do. And this can also work in two ways. So first of all, they say, yep, no problem. They'll jump off, and then that's that. Or second of all, they'll be like, well, actually, I am a fit. And then they'll explain and they'll give you more information that they've been kind of guarding and holding back from you. And then they actually start to sell themselves. So that can actually work really well in some cases too. So the thing that I want to clear up as well that people tend to get wrong, I've had a lot of conversations with people about this, is that they think that if you're saying no to people, you're passing up. Like, how do you know if you get them on the call that they might change their mind and want to be a fit? Like, I've run hundreds, if not thousands, of sales calls now, and I think that's probably happened 1% of the time. People typically know when they're coming onto that call where they're up to and how urgent the problem is. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, I'm not too that interested in buying, but if it's right, I'll probably buy. Where you get some people being like, oh, I have no intention of buying whatsoever. I just want to kind of see what's out there. But to be clear, saying no to a bad fit, you're not losing a deal, because there was never a deal on the cards. Chances are it wasn't going to close. And what you'll get back is the time, the headspace. And like I said at the start, one of the biggest things in sales is confidence. Your prospects can sense if you feel confident, if you feel in control, if you know what you're doing, because people buy confidence. They want you to be confident that your solution can also help them, which in turn makes them feel confident too. If you're anxious or like you've got commission breath and you're kind of there trying to get them over the line and you feel a bit awkward and the call's uncomfortable, the prospect's going to be just desperate to get off there to stop having to speak to you. And just having that mental clarity and kind of the headspace by not speaking to people who are a bad fit all the time is just going to help you in so many different ways. But if you want more advice around this, or you're kind of struggling with this at this point in time, feel free to jump into the closing clinic on school, free to join, and we can have a chat on the inside.